Oh hi, welcome to Aquata Zoo, where we like to nerd out over all things zoo and aquarium related. I'm l.semple, and today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about vocalizing what you want. I'm coming at this from, I guess, more of a leadership and management kind of viewpoint, but it works for everybody. I've been in courses because I'm in school still, doing a leadership doctorate, and there's been some topics that have come up lately that just really got me thinking. When you're going through an education like this, it's very intense and you reflect a lot on your own circumstances and leaders that you've had in the past and things that have happened, and now you look at them with new clarity. And I got to thinking about something that I frequently ran into throughout my career. It happens still because people are not necessarily vocalizing what they need, what they want, what they intend, and all they're really vocalizing is what they don't want. And as much as I don't want to dwell on politics, this is happening there too. And I thought, why not just talk about it a little bit? In the past, I've worked with supervisors who were not super clear about what they were looking for. So they say, I want you to do this task. And that's all they say. And so I think, being the young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed person who wants to do a good job, I'm thinking, okay, I'll do the thing that you're asking me to do in my way, however I feel is needed, unless you say otherwise. And then that supervisor doesn't say anything else, and I just try to go about doing it the way I feel is right. I've had those same types of supervisors get really mad at me because I somehow didn't catch the whole message, right? Maybe there was a time frame involved that they wanted it done by, but they didn't actually say that out loud. Maybe there was a technique they wanted me to use or tools that they wanted me to use, but they didn't say that. And so they just expect you to fumble through it. There are some people who intend for you to learn that way, to fumble through it all until you stumble upon the right way to do it accidentally. You figure out that the way that most people go for first doesn't work, therefore you've got to reevaluate and figure it out and do it a different way, until you get to the point where you stumble upon the way that everyone does the thing, and you just had to go through that whole learning process yourself. Will you remember that? Yeah, probably, because you reasoned through it, you thought about it, you came to your own conclusions, and you moved on. Sure. Is it the best way? Probably not. Just letting people know things to watch out for can be helpful. Showing them the right way, telling them the right way, that's all helpful. Like, you don't necessarily have to stumble through life to figure everything out on your own. So if you are a supervisor, or you have a supervisor who already knows what they're looking for and they're just not saying it, it can be frustrating when they're using this lack of information as a way to teach you how to do your job. Or you teach yourself how to do your job. They could make it a little easier, make this all move faster, and build a relationship with you at the same time, but they have chosen not to. They are not saying what they want or what they expect or what they need, and therefore you're just out there trying to figure it all out on your own. So yeah, sometimes people do that on purpose because they want you to learn some big valuable lesson. Other times they don't realize you need more information. They don't know that you don't know. It's very possible that you're dealing with somebody who's been in your business or whatever for decades, right? They barely remember not knowing everything that they know. And so what typically comes as like natural thought processes to them, because they've been in this business for who knows how long, they forget that there are people starting from square one, that we don't all know the same level of stuff right off the bat. And so they don't say it because they don't think about saying it, because obviously everyone knows that, even though that's not true. There are people that legitimately think that they've given you enough information and you just need to roll with it, figure it out from there. And they might genuinely be okay with you figuring it out and moving ahead and doing your own thing, making it your own, just you taking it and running with it and doing what you feel is best. And some people are cool with that. And that's why they give you relatively little information. They don't mind you doing it however you're going to do it. And they don't think about giving you more information because it doesn't matter. You're going to do it the way you do it anyway. And then there are the people who don't want to say more. They legitimately either don't know what they're really looking for or they don't want to say it out loud, right? So these are the people that I find the most frustrating. These are the ones that are like, here's the task that I want you to do. And then you start asking questions or actually executing the task and they get mad. They don't like the way you're doing it. They don't like the technique that you're using. They don't like that you're not doing it the way they would do it. There's all these things that they will stop you and say that they don't like. But they're not giving you what they do want. And that is super frustrating to deal with as someone who's trying to do a good job and trying to learn. Let me see. I have an example of this. So once upon a time, I worked for a supervisor who gave me their blessing to get into a master's program, right? And so that was all fine and good. I'm not sure why it would have caused a problem. But as I got through all the courses, and it was all leadership related and zoo and aquarium related, like it's leadership in zoos and aquariums. Very specific. But anyway, I was going through the courses and everything, and it was a little bit of a bumpy ride. The whole thing was a little messy, but I was getting there. Everything was going fine. I was getting towards the end of my degree, and I needed to plan ahead to finish up because my school was trying to kind of wrap up the program. They were done doing it because it had been a little bit bumpy and not everything was going really great. The education was good. It was just a nightmare to run from the school standpoint because they're trying to partner with zoos and aquariums and AZA and all this other stuff. Anyway, so it was kind of a mess, but it was a helpful mess for me in particular because I like zoo and aquarium stuff. I was trying to learn leadership things. Like it was great for me. But from the school perspective, it was wild. So they were trying to wrap up this program and finish it. And I was one of the last ones through. And so we were trying to figure out exactly what classes I'm taking when to try and get this finished because it's a mess, right? And so I started planning out my final courses. And, 6 months to a year, I think a year and a half ahead of time, I was planning out these courses. So I went to my supervisor and I said, hey, I've got this course that I've got to take at this point. I've got that course that I've got to take at that point. Like I laid out everything for my supervisor because there were times that I was going to need to get off of work to go and work with AZA. And anyway, so there were going to be times where I was working, but I was out of the office. And so I was trying to give as much notice as I could. And then my supervisor at the time at the time that was fine. Like they gave the okay. And so no big deal, whatever. And then as the end of my classes was running closer and closer, so I was at this point at my last class, still 6 months out. And I went back to my supervisor and I said, okay, a year ago we discussed this is what's happening. And I just want you to know in 6 more months, I've got one more class. It's the last one. I'll be done after this. I'm sorry. It's like a pain, but I've got to go for a little bit. Like a week at a time. It was not like a huge deal. But I let them know that I had to go. And unfortunately, in the last few weeks ahead of that talk, even though I had told my supervisor a year before that what was going to be going on, my supervisor had scheduled for several people to be gone all at the same time, gone to different conferences and workshops and whatnot. And my supervisor had expected me to run the facility while everyone else was gone. And I reminded them, hey, I got my last class. I've got to be gone. And that started this whole fight. And it was not pretty. It was not pleasant. It was not good at all. And so what ended up happening was that I said, I've got to go for this class. This is the last one. They're shutting down the program. I have to go to finish my degree. my supervisor came at me with, you need to run things while all the rest of us are gone. And I said I couldn't. And I said, I've got to go. Even if the facility's not going to pay me while I'm gone, I will take vacation and I will go. And they said, no, you are not allowed to. And I said, well, I'm going to be sick that week. Like, there was not another way around this for me. And I had let my supervisor know a year and a half ahead of time that this was happening. And so my supervisor threatened and said that they were going to write me up as being absent without leave 6 months ahead of time. Anyway, it was a wild fight and both of us got really heated. What ended up happening was that my supervisor made me attend a meeting, write up a schedule when I was not the one who normally wrote the schedule at the time. I was later, but at this point I wasn't. And I had to give this mock schedule to all of my coworkers and then go around the room and ask them individually if they supported me going to my class. And thank goodness for my team. They were very supportive and they did not understand what was going on, why we were in this meeting, why we were talking about this, why I had to do this. And it was just because this supervisor of mine wanted me to jump through hoops. They didn't want me to leave. They didn't want me to go to school. They didn't want me to be able to get the approval of my coworkers. What was really going on, which I reflected on and I understand now, was that early when my supervisor had given me the okay to do this program in the first place, we had a talk about how they had always wanted to get a master's degree. Like, that was a big deal to them. And the issue was that with me finishing my master's degree, I was doing the thing that they always wanted to do. They wanted to stop me from finishing because then I would have the thing that they wanted. That's kind of what it boiled down to. I'm sure there was more nuances than that. But after I thought about everything that had happened, I went back to that very first conversation that we had ages ago about them saying, what a great opportunity. I've always wanted to have a master's degree. And the resistance that got heavier and heavier and heavier as I was finishing my degree. It was brutal because they just wouldn't say what it was that they wanted. They would only tell me what they didn't want. They didn't want me to leave. They didn't want me to finish. They didn't care that the program was wrapping. You know, they didn't want any of all these different things. What they wanted was their master's degree. Which has nothing to do with me, really. But I was doing the thing that they wanted to do. And that was hard for them to accept. Now, I've analyzed all this on my own. There's another side to this story that I am not privy to. But after looking at how it all played out, that is what's going on. So it was basically someone saying, I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want this. I don't want that. But not saying what it was that they wanted. They wanted that master's degree. They didn't necessarily want me to have it instead of them. And so that's where the problem was. And I understand why they didn't say it, because it would have sounded terrible. I don't want you to have that master's degree because I want that master's degree, right? That sounds awful. But at the same time, I feel like people need to really think through the things that they want and say it. Say it with your full chest. Get behind it. It's a thing that I see with politics as well. We've got one party who will say, I don't want this. I don't want you to have that. I don't want this. I don't want this going on. I don't want that happening. But what they don't tend to vocalize is what they do want. Because I feel like if they said specifically what they wanted, it would sound bad. The other party tends to say a little bit more about what they do want, the way they envision the world to be. They want things to be fair. Anyway, this is a problem that I see in politics as well. There's a lot of people saying, I don't want you to be able to do that. I don't want that person to be able to do this. But they don't say what the vision is of the thing that they want in the end, right? The goal that they're working towards, right? They're not saying that. And I don't know if it's because they don't want to say it. I don't know if it's because they don't know how to say it. But I have a feeling that they're all, not all of them, not everyone, but many people in power are envisioning something that they're not willing to say out loud because it sounds terrible. It probably sounds elitist and capitalist and racist, probably. Like, it all probably sounds awful. But you know what? If that's what you want, you need to say it with your full chest. You are making it very confusing by saying, I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't. This is not what I want. None of these things are what I want. I don't want these people to be able to access that. I don't want this over here. I don't want the government telling me that. And so it just looks crazy. If you would just say exactly what you wanted, it would be a lot more clear as to like what you're aiming for. That's hard to do. Not everybody understands what they really want out of life, right? I've had many friends in my time who they don't necessarily want to date. They don't necessarily want to settle down, but they do kind of want the family life. And like it just gets all jumbled, right? So they don't want to settle, they don't want to date, but they do want that white picket fence and that ideal family life in the end. But they're like, it's hard to get there if you're not willing to do these other things, right? And yes, that's a normal confusion for young people. Right? Like sometimes you just want to go out for a night on the town and you don't really want to settle down with some specific person and you're just not sure how to make these decisions for yourself for your future, right? But in the end, at some point, you're going to have a view or a goal for your life that you need to say out loud and admit it to yourself and be okay with that and then work towards your goal. I've been there. I've been in the position where I don't really know how to vocalize what it is I want because I'm not sure, right? And that's okay too. But, you know, in my career, at least, I have been at a point where I'm just kind of disgruntled and angry and maybe even in some cases bitter with how things are turning out and I don't have a lot of control and I've just gotten so mad and it turns out really what I want is to move ahead or to have a bigger challenge, I guess. And so, yes, I then kind of lash out a little bit because I'm like frustrated with life because I haven't said with my full chest what exactly I want, right? So, like, take for example, I got the master's degree. I did finish. I finished the master's degree and then I was like, now what? Okay. I knew going in that it did not necessarily mean that I had a different job waiting for me once I finished that degree or that I was bound to move ahead, right? There was no guarantee of that, right? I was doing it because I wanted to do it. Same with my doctorate now. I'm doing it because I want to do it. There's nothing waiting for me at the end. It opens more doors to different types of jobs if I decide to move or change, but I'm doing it for me, right? But then I'd go to work, I'd have this degree in my head of, you know, leadership and zoo and aquarium stuff, right? And then I'd see things that would just send me into a rage because it wasn't being done right, right? Leadership was not being done well from my experience at that time in that location, right? And so, but I knew how to do it, right? I had a good idea. I had lots of good ideas of how we could improve things. Not like change everything from top to bottom. I'm not about that. But like little things that could make life a lot better and just awareness that people around me did not have because they haven't really nerded out about it like I had, right? And so I would get really frustrated and I would just get irate at like little things. And it was mainly because I wasn't admitting to myself what I wanted, which was to move up and fix the stuff. Not necessarily like the job title, but like just the influence and the authority that I didn't have at that point. I had some influence and I could change a little bit there, but I didn't have the authority that I needed to really make some meaningful change that would stick, right? And that's what was getting me, because I wanted to make change. Change was really needed at that time, and it was not happening. I couldn't do anything about it, and I was mad. So I was not admitting to myself or anyone else what I really wanted, which was to fix the leadership problems that I saw, because I was armed with knowledge and understanding of what was going on and the backstory behind it, like the theory behind it. I could see all of the things. Like, I had looked too far into the matrix. I could see it, but I couldn't do much about it. And really what I wanted was to be in a position where I could kind of influence the leadership to change / force the leadership to change, force them to be better for the good of the awesome people that they had working there, right? And so I didn't really admit that, I guess. I don't think I had the awareness or the words for it at the time. I do now. And I'm in a position now where I can make the change. And it's okay. I'm much, much happier. I have much more ability to influence what's happening and try and protect my team. And so I'm much more content. Yay. What am I going to do next? I don't know. I'm just finishing my school stuff right now. I think this will be it for my school career. It's kind of a terminal degree. So, but, maybe the next step will be something else, and I'm going to have to figure out what that is, and I'm going to try and say it so that I understand what it is and everyone else around me understands what it is. So speaking to all of you leaders out there, or potential leaders, or just people that are dealing with other people, if you have a goal, or if you have an aim, or if you're assigning people tasks, or you're taking on something and you have like a vision for how it's going to look in the end, say it. Get through the I don't want this, I don't want that, I do want this, I do want that, to get to the final product of what you're looking for. If you can tell the other people specifically, I have this vision of us doing XYZ, or this exhibit having this stuff in it and people enjoying it for these reasons, right? There is a lot more clarity there, and people can help you get there. Let people help you get there so that you can reach your goals. Even if you're not proud of what you're hoping to accomplish, you need to say it. Say it out loud. If you're ashamed of it, maybe it's time to adjust your goals a little bit and find some peace in there of what you're really looking for, not necessarily this thing that does not sound good when you say it out loud, right? I'm sure I've had goals that when I say them out loud, it's probably not so great, but understand, just say it and see how you feel about it when you hear the words or you see them written down, and gauge the reaction that you get, right? I keep bringing it back to politicians because I'm not sure what the end game is here and what the final vision is. Based on what I'm seeing changing in the US government recently, it is going to be a really capitalist kind of dystopian nightmare for people like me who are kind of in the lower rungs of society financially, right? I don't make a ton of money. The people that are around me don't make a ton of money. We're just regular people trying to get by. I am a person of color. So that looks different for me than it seems to look for people who are not, right? It's an interesting scenario that I see. And so I see a lot of action to do a lot of different things. I don't want immigrants here. I do want capitalism ruling everything. I don't want these people trading with us. I don't want this. I don't want that. And really what I want them to say it with your full chest, because you're trying to make it happen. Say what it is that you want. I'm not trying to make this huge and political. I'm really not. But I'm just trying to convey some abstract thought here, in that think past what you do and don't want a little bit further and give that full version of what you envision as being your goal. Because that will help other people understand you and will help people who are working with you try to help you get there, most likely. So just say it out loud. Be confident enough to say it. Write it down, scream it to the heavens, whatever. But you need to be confident enough to say it, and then just analyze that feeling when you do say it, what you're envisioning, what you're hoping for, what your goals are, so that you really solidify that in your mind. Or if you want to make some edits, that's okay too. If you say it out loud and you don't like how that sounds, that's okay. You're not a bad person. Just do a little editing. It's fine. There's probably some kernel in there that you're really trying to get to that you maybe just need to put different words to. And that's okay. Once upon a time, I thought I just wanted to move up. I wanted just to get to the next level of my career, right? That's what you're supposed to do. What I realized when I said that out loud, like it sounds kind of, I don't know, competitive. I'm not a super competitive type of person, so it didn't fit right for me. And so what I really wanted was to make meaningful change. That's what I wanted. That's what I still want, you know? So that's where the difference was. And when I said it out loud, I want to move up. It didn't sit right. And I did some editing and I got to the point where I understood I really wanted to make meaningful change. And I really wanted to influence people's lives, their careers, in a good way. In a way that they found helpful. I had great leadership aspirations, but not because I wanted to be the boss, but because I wanted to help people. So that's where we're at. I've done a lot of editing on that, even though I'm kind of fumbling through the explanation of it now. But yeah, once upon a time, I just said I wanted to be the boss. I wanted to move up, whatever. That's not really what I wanted. I just wanted to make meaningful change, help people out, help people reach their goals. I love that stuff. That's great. And so that's a much different statement, right? I want to move up versus I want to help people meet their own goals. That's totally different. And doing so in a zoo and aquarium is really odd because they're, at least in my field, the animal care side, the people are very animal oriented and not people oriented. So having someone come in there who says, I really want to help the people, it's a little strange. I'm okay with that though. I'm ready for it. So I don't know. This is just my thought, my ramblings about how I really want other leaders to think fully through what they want, what their goals are, and say it. Say it out loud. Do some editing. It's okay. It might not sound exactly right when you say it out loud, but be clear about it, because everything you do and all the decisions that you make are probably working towards that goal. And if people are seeing you making decisions that seem a little weird and they don't understand and what are we doing here, it's because you have not been clear about what it is that you do want. You've only probably been saying the things that you don't want, which makes it really tough to figure out what's going on and get you there, right? And they don't know how to help you meet those goals. So think about it, say it out loud, be confident, and do some editing. That's totally okay. And it's not easy the first time you kind of do this sort of stuff. What's your goal? What are you trying to get to? Other people will be willing to help you. It's okay. Okay, if you have any questions about that or any other leadership or management things, or zoo and aquarium stuff, you can just spread it up in an email. Send it to me at aquatazoo@gmail.com. If you're enjoying the show, and I hope that you do, don't forget to follow or subscribe on your podcast player of choice. That way you'll get all of that sweet, sweet content as soon as it releases. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can find me at patreon.com/aquatazoo. And if you're looking to take a vacation and you don't know where to start, I happen to be a personal vacation advisor with Magical Vacation Planner, and I would love to help you out. It does not cost you anything extra. The links are in the show notes. Okay. Thanks for listening. I heart your faces. Okay, bye.